Audio Jungle.
In the early 60s, Nigeria had witnessed close to 10 attempted and counter-coups, which are best described as a state of dilemma. Reports had it that between 1966 and 1999, Nigeria was ruled by a military government without interruption, apart from a short-lived return to democracy under the Second Nigerian Republic of 1979 to 1983. The country recorded another coup in 1993 without yielding to further attempts under the Fourth Nigerian Republic, giving rise to multi-party democracy in 1999. A historian, Mas Solon, says northern soldiers had a list of grievances raised from the aborted 15 January 1966 coup, which led to the plan of the counter-coups such as the murder of northern civilian leaders and military officers in the aborted 15 January 1966 coup d'etat. The 15 January 1966 coup conspirators, mostly majors, had not been tried for treason and were being paid while in detention. The passage of the Unification Decree, rumors of an Igbo coup to eliminate northern soldiers, the promotion of several Igbo majors to lieutenant colonel, rumors of General Aguiyi Ironsi's ethnic favoritism towards Igbos, plans to swap the 1st and 4th battalions, and plans to rotate the military governors of the different regions. All these have led to the bloody execution and sentences of coup plotters, which in turn causes economic hardship and ethnic incitement in the country. However, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuggar, reflecting on these ugly situations at the 6th annual lecture of the Association of Foreign Relations Professionals of Nigeria on the theme Unconstitutional Change of Government and Attainment of the African Union's 2063 Agenda and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the case of West Africa and the Sahel sub-region, urges those clamoring for coups to have a rethink on how the country had suffered setbacks in its resolve to demonstrate good governance and accountability. The minister, while admonishing the negative narratives by some section of the public, appealed to the international community to support Nigeria and President Tinubu's led administration to ensure democracy works in the country.
I represent a generation of Nigerians that grew up under military rule. We grew up watching executions, people getting shot at the firing squad in Bar Beach, Lagos, on TV. Nigeria has had in the past arguably 10 military coups, some successful, some unsuccessful. Of course, when coups happen, the constitution is suspended, the social contract is broken. And apart from the social contract being broken, oftentimes there's corruption that you cannot speak about. It's important that we work on that, which is what this administration is trying to do. Also saying that democracy doesn't come with its own challenges. You have to work towards making democracy is an ideal. Just like communism is an ideal, so you have to work towards it, always seeking for it, but there's no perfect democracy. And I think part of the problem that we are facing in this region and also other parts of the world has to do with certain creations of think tanks, such as the Democratic Peace Thesis.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, in her lecture highlighted the root causes of unconstitutional change of power, noting that billions of people are paying the price for enduring poverty, rising costs and loss of hope for the future, resulting in trust deficit and broken governance in West Africa and beyond. She therefore called for collective engagement and constructive response to tackle the recent governance challenges facing the region.
First, we need to confront the departure from democracy and its norms that we witness in recent unconstitutional changes of government. Centuries of colonialism and external influences have left an indelible mark in our societies, hindering the organic development of a constitutional order that truly reflects and responds to people's rights and aspirations. Constitutions should be living documents that capture the essence and hopes of our people, whose paths they would guide. The custodians in our elected offices should be held to account for protecting the integrity of our guiding principles enshrined in our constitutions. However, in West Africa and the Sahel, we find ourselves at a critical juncture. Whilst existing constitutional frameworks may not always reflect the true aspirations of our diverse needs and complexities in the development journey, thus bringing about tensions in societies resulting in conflict and the breakdown in law and order, we must constantly use the structures of governance to hold to account and address the gaps in the course of our implementation. Perhaps it is time to revisit and chart a better course towards a more self-defined, inclusive and autonomous future, which is at hand. We must create the conditions that allow our citizens to address the root causes of political instability, even if it means having the courage to challenge the model of democracy. Not the principles of democracy that we practice, but sometimes perhaps those models are born before their time.
While speaking, Amina urges inclusive governance at all levels to guarantee the peace and security they strive for.
Second reflection, peace and security are impossible without sustainable and inclusive development, and both are needed to attain the human rights of every citizen. Treating the symptoms of the challenges is not good enough. Today, development is an emergency, and we must find ways of stemming the crisis by investing in the SDGs, a framework for sustainability. It took us 4 years to frame the Sustainable Development Goals. It is a social agenda, it is an environmental agenda, it is an economic agenda, but it is also an agenda that stands on 2 pillars, one of partnership and one of strong institutions and a respect for the rule of law. We're halfway through, and let's see if we can use these crises as a time to reflect and better engage with trying to succeed the next half of the SDGs. We need to tackle the broader underlying systemic factors that allow instability to take hold, starting with hunger and poverty, and a lack of education and opportunity. For instance, strengthening our social protection floors would allow us to deal with the complex issues of poverty and provide a level of dignity that is desired and everyone has the right to. To give an example, in Nigeria we have over 10 million children that are out of school. To address this, it's not enough to support these children and say that we're just going to construct boarding schools. Maybe a temporary measure. We'll only succeed by addressing the broader, longer-term needs of the families and the communities so that children do not end up on the streets, that families do not have to give their children away because they cannot find 1 square meal a day. People everywhere aspire for their children to have every opportunity to build a better and a more prosperous life. And this means that we have to refrain from thinking poorly for the poor. As you are in these positions of responsibility and leadership, what you would want for your own, you should want for every child in Nigeria, in the sub-region, in the world. It does mean providing avenues for education, skills, and meaningful employment. And education not as an expenditure, but as an investment, especially for our young people and women, who all have a right to their agency. It means taking command of our natural resources, the value add, the value addition, promoting economic diversification and innovation, fostering social cohesion and ensuring environmental sustainability. Crucial to this is ensuring that women and youth are active participants and leaders in shaping our collective future. And this has to happen at all levels of the state. Excellencies, a third reflection. We need to work to rebuild the social contract across the region. The social contract, a bond between people and the authorities that govern them, has been frayed by decades of underinvestment, crises, and a lack of governance. In order to achieve this, We must continue to build and strengthen our existing institutions that can serve pillars for positive change. In Africa, we do have the African Union. It is the only vehicle that we have. It may not be perfect, but it is the vehicle that Africa has, and that, with its recent reforms, should be strengthened. By investing in these institutions and empowering them to fulfill their mandates effectively, we also demonstrate our commitment to a vision of regional cooperation and solidarity. And here, this is where our regional commissions, ECOWAS, stood tall to bring together the component parts of Africa, one of our 5 RECs. And we hope that the crises we have around the continent, that like the United Nations, that after 50 years, almost 50 years of existence, we will look to see how we reposition for the future that is going to be very different from the past that we're coming from.
Earlier, the president of the Association of Foreign Relations Professionals of Nigeria, Ambassador Gani Lawa, had said the topic was carefully selected to restore normalcy in the nation's democratic process and assured of their continuous commitment to ensure a positive impact in Nigeria's foreign policy for social and economic development.
Positively impact the foreign policy of Nigeria, and we will continue to make available to the policymakers the result of our brainstorming exercise to guide our foreign policy options. At present, the national interest of Nigeria is to build a strong economic base, fight insurgency and terrorism, and decapitate the corruption monster. Therefore, finding resources to actualize this interest in the international arena should remain the cornerstone of Nigerian foreign policy. Recognize that the process of implementing foreign policy requires people, technology, and clear understanding of content and context. We therefore submit that consultation and utilization of expertise of past officers are essential ingredients in the implementation of our foreign policy, economic development, and governance.
They hinted at the urgency to update the region's security tool inbox to find pathways to end existing conflict and prevent new ones as the continent is hitting the UN Agenda 2060 and 2030. Vincent Okushi, reporting for Quality Television.
Audio Jungle.